So, hi, Krisztina. Good to meet you here
Hi,
and have a
Richard.
little
Very
talk.
good to see you.
So, it's great to just have a little talk about a certain subject. Now, today we wanted to talk about burnout. Burnout, it's like a hot topic. It's been quite a hot topic for a while, especially in COVID times. There's been a lot of talk about the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, all these kind of effects, if you like, of burnout, as far as I can see. But there's a lot of talk, and then if you look, you can go on to research lots of things about burnout, and they will say things like, well, you should have more empathy, or you should do this, or you should do that. Talking about managers, especially dealing with burnout in their teams. But in fact, it's still going on. So one big question I have for you now, and maybe it's something we can discuss and then open out on, is managers today. In a way, most of them know about this problem. Most of them know that it affects, loads of people, more or less. I think some of the statistics are incredible, like 75% or something, of people at some point are suffering from a version of burnout, maybe not the most extreme one, but quite a lot. So we know about it. We know some of the things you should be doing, and yet it's still going on. And somehow I feel there's a kind of a root problem going on here, that managers kind of know about it, what to do, but it doesn't quite get to the importance level of, running the business, getting work done and so on. And so managers don't really step in. They don't really change, fundamentally the way things work to actually avoid it completely. Imagine that. Imagine working in a company where there is no burnout, everyone's just totally happy in a balanced state. How much more productive a company would be in that state, how much more creative, right? And that's what we need today. Companies really need that. So my question to you first off, and then, we'll open this out, is what can we do? Why aren't managers kind of know about it, but they don't really give it the importance it deserves?
So, I love your thoughts, Richard, and it's so interesting that everyone knows about this problem, but so few managers look into this question. Why? Everybody knows it's a problem, and a lot of managers are also impacted because they also experience burnout.
Yeah, quite, exactly. Yeah.
It looks like, maybe HR should look into this question. Maybe
right.
Some experts, maybe psychologists. Everybody should do something external, not at their workplace. They should look for a coach.
So maybe one day we should hire a coach to sort this problem out. One day.
Or those people, those employees who are impacted, they should ask their friends if they can suggest a coach or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It's not us. What can we do?
Not my problem.
Yeah, right. If we feel uncertain about what we should do, we don't act. Like if I have never done sports and if I feel I don't have energy or I have a lot of overweight, if I have no idea that fitness studios exist, then I can't even ask someone who works in a gym, right? Or ask for help.
Yeah, probably most employees don't really, it depends on the company, but they don't really necessarily know what to do on their own. Exactly. And they're maybe not even aware of it so clearly either.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you. So I think sometimes people feel exhausted and they are looking for the Christmas break, right? We just had the Christmas break and it's New Year's Eve and people were like, I'm sure in 2 weeks, my batteries will be refilled, I'm okay. And actually, before we talked, I just had a coaching session with someone and that person said, I'm still exhausted. No wonder. Right. And I think it happens to a lot of people. There are high expectations. Within these few days, I will be able to fly again. And it's not happening. And that's also one of the signs of burnout. And now employees don't know what they should do. Managers don't know what they should do with their own problems. Plus, how can they support their team members, even though there are some easy ways how to support them? So
perhaps you can talk about some of those easy ways. It seems like perhaps I'm wondering again. I'm trying to find the questions behind the question. So there are these easy ways, and we'll talk about them. But do you think perhaps sometimes managers think, well, that's too easy, or it's like maybe too psychological or too something for them to really do it. It's like not really my job. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. There's a problem with burnout. Well,
Exactly.
apparently there are these easy things to do. Perhaps I should do them with my teams and so on, but they're a bit not really my job. It's not really my thing.
Yeah.
And can't they just do them on their own? You know, can't they just, you know,
It's on my plate.
they're easy things to do, you know? Is there something like that going on?
I have so much to do. I mean, that's a psychologist's job to deal with burnout, right? It's not mine. Even though there are some tasks, and these are tasks that every manager actually should do, not just to avoid burnout, but of course also to make the life of everyone easier. And you asked me what they should do based on my belief. The first one, and it won't be a surprise. It's not something like you will say, wow, finally somebody is giving me the big answer, right? It's not. It's a black and white step. It's like clarifying roles and expectations.
Okay. So, for example, you tell a manager you need to clarify roles and expectations. Now, that sounds like that's within his remit, within his. So, but then he says, but it's already clear. Everything's already clear. So what do you tell him then?
Exactly. So it's already clear. Now, very interestingly, if you ask a manager, okay, tell me, you have a team member, let's call him John, okay? So what are the 10 expectations you have for John? And then you ask John, what does your manager expect from you? Now, on average,
there's a mismatch.
A gap. So only there is an overlap of 20 to 30%.
Okay.
So assumption is a big thing here. People assume everybody knows what they have to do. And even if they know what they have to do, they don't understand their priorities and they are overwhelmed. That's one of the symptoms, feeling overwhelmed and frustrated because they have so much on their plate. Now, if I go home, even if I'm in my home office, if I switch off my laptop at the end of the day, and if I have the feeling I worked the whole day, but I didn't finish my work, and they have that feeling every single day.
Yeah.
Not a good feeling, right?
Not a good feeling. They're probably going to sleep not very well. They're going to wake up tired. And then you go into this cycle, you know, the burnout cycle, really, where suddenly physically you're tired, then emotionally you're tired, and so on and so on. And we get this slow kind of spiral, descending spiral.
Exactly.
That's the burnout thing.
Exactly.
So one idea that's coming to mind as we talk, Krisztina, is that in a way that these things to do, you know, like clarify roles and expectations, you know, and on both sides, check the mismatch and, you know, sort that out. That does sound like something managers should be doing. However, somehow, I'm just wondering if there's a special kind of manager way to say that, so that, you know, it becomes a key part, a regular part of a manager's job, you know, and not something like special, oh, I have this burnout problem, I must do every now and then, I must do this special anti-burnout thing. It should be, you know, kind of a regular thing somehow. And then we don't even ask the question about burnout anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not about talking about burnout, but it's really having those regular, and that's the key word, I love that, regular weekly meetings where it's really also about the well-being of the team members.
Right.
I think one of the worst things is asking someone how you are doing, and you know, you see the manager is already looking into his papers.
Yeah.
And does not really care, looking into the phone.
Yeah.
Who likes that? If I get the question, how are you doing, Chris? And then the other person doesn't care about me, how do I feel? It impacts everything else. So care. And then it's a manager.
Yeah, so the manager then will say, well, yes, but that's all very good, but I don't have much time. You know, I can't talk to I can't do one-on-ones for an hour and a half with all my team members every week. It's just not possible. And then you think, okay, well, maybe there's a way to do 20 minutes that's really effective. I don't know. But, you know, and there's also a question of the effect, the danger. I think sometimes people don't really measure the danger of this. You know, an employee leaving, crashing, burning out is, you know, it costs a lot to the company, even just that. Doing not good work, making mistakes also costs. All these things cost.
Cost a lot of money.
The general atmosphere, which goes, you know, in some companies, which becomes everyone's sort of afraid and tired and exhausted. I mean, this is not going to produce, the next new product that's going to make that company, profitable. It's
Exactly.
it seems like the cost is a little bit hidden. It's one of those human costs. It's like a hiring cost, and it's not really, it's like if the manager knew that, he'd say, okay, let's make an hour. I'll take an hour with you, and we'll just talk about anything. And I want to stop this burnout procedure happening, But it's a little bit invisible, the cost, it seems to me as well.
Absolutely. Plus, you mentioned 20 minutes, 1 hour, 1.5 hours. A lot of times managers say, I don't have time for this. And when I observe conversations between managers and team members, what I see is that a lot of times they lose track. So they don't have a good and structured and a motivational type of conversation. And that's why I'm a huge believer of coaching, the GROW model. Super easy.
GROW, yeah.
Everybody should know the GROW model. And then if they follow that, plus if they put their heart and soul into that, fully believe it's necessary, right? We are not robots. Nobody is.
Sure.
In a robotic mode, right? And then if they ask, okay, so what are your priorities for this week? What are the 3 most important things that you want to cover this week? That helps the employee, because 3 things are much more manageable than to have a to-do list with 28 items. And out of these 28, 25 are new every week. It's very frustrating. And a lot of change is frustrating as well. And I think an interesting aspect is, and that's what I've been observing, people thought, okay, COVID is over, so we are going back to work. Now life will be easy. That was the general expectation, right? Sure. So everybody will be freed of those anxiety and whatever issues. And it's not happening. So it's a double backpack.
Yeah, sure. It's a double whammy. People are going back to work. There's the stress of being in a workplace. There's the kind of the lingering experience of COVID and what that taught us about what's really important in life sometimes as well. All these things are coming back, and it's quite tough, I think, really, and there's lots of people talking about quiet quitting and so on. I think one of the things about this burnout the burnout issue is as well, is that very quickly someone who's in burnout or sliding into burnout, the actual goal of why they're there, their purpose or the purpose of the company or what it's trying to do just disappears from the horizon. They're just on their little work, and they've got this ton of work to do, and they're tired, and there's nothing uplifting, elevating going on anymore. And I think that's, for me at least, that I'm sort of really interested in the vision, how the vision can propel us, make us go forward. I think that's one of the key things that also managers should work on for themselves. Now, if you're connecting yourself to a vision regularly, naturally you're going to share that with your employees. And of course the coaching method is GROW. It's great to do that, to clarify these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting that you're mentioning that. I'm just putting together a new training concept, and I was looking into the characteristics of a super team. Right. And in the first line, it says, know your vision and know where you stand on the path to achieve what you want to achieve, and go back to that on a regular basis and look into what is really uplifting, what is really motivational for your team members. What do they need to feel the fire again? The passion. Right. Why did they choose that job 3 years ago when they choose this company or this department?
That's right. And I think it's also, I think sometimes our vision and our, the kind of, our purpose or our dream, where we're headed, it's not big enough somehow. Sometimes it's just, it's like, well, we have to make, 13% profit next quarter or some kind of, but that's not a vision. That might be a way to get there, but it's not. The vision needs to be really exciting. I mean, that would be at least the way I would approach most things, actually, not just the workplace, but and quite often we stay with a fairly sort of medium vision. This is a reasonable vision. We'll just do this, but somehow that runs the risk of the burnout happening, because people kind of lose. They don't really get excited about that.
They don't.
You don't get a team working really to, wow, let's go there. Let's go to the moon. I mean, not just, or let's go to Mars. I mean, the big visions are amazingly, I think they're quite good burnout avoiders. Let's say, maybe that's I'm not sure. Maybe someone would disagree with that.
I love that, and you always inspire me to share a few stories. Right? I know companies where, or departments, depending on the size of the company, they run these monthly meetings, right? And they share the figures. We achieved this and that and that, and then that's it. But who is inspired by profit? Maybe a few people, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, obviously it can be important, but it's not lasting. I think it's
not the purpose. People want to feel the purpose. They want to feel how they create value, how they support an organization to achieve something bigger.
Absolutely.
That relates to their heart. And a lot of managers say, okay, the hard thing, they should do that after 5 p.m., right? They should talk to their whatever wives and whatever friends and do the romantic things afterward. But we all have a soul. That is a very important engine to achieve something big.
Absolutely. I really, really agree. And I think this is the struggle, isn't it, though, as well, with a very demanding workplace, very demanding, marketplace.
Absolutely. It's not easy.
Lots of pressure. This is how the West has decided to live. And other parts of the world too, more or less, but it is creating this intense pressure all the time.
Exactly.
And we feed that with this ideas of personal ambition. I should get on with my job, I should make sure I get the promotion, whatever it is, and to get the promotion I have to do all this extra work, and and then so on and so on and so
always
on.
More
so
and more.
It's I think it's really sometimes my temptation is always to look for the higher picture. There's the vision of the company, there's the vision of the company in this marketplace, in this world, and really try and link that all together so that you're feeling that on a regular basis. Let's say not every second, every minute, but regularly, so that you feel, okay, I'm in the right place. I'm here, I'm doing this work. I've clarified with my manager what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done, what the real expectations are. I'm connected to the higher goal. Okay, it's tough work sometimes, but sometimes I like that toughness, and I'm going forward.
Exactly. So clarifying expectations and scheduling those super famous and important one-on-ones, right? And they don't have to last 1.5 hours. So if somebody's good in coaching, within half an hour, you can clarify so much, but one-on-ones are super important. And then also talk about if the workload is manageable. No manager should assume that should be manageable. It depends on so many things. So clarify, is that goal realistic for you? Because if there is no honest relationship, the team member will say, okay, got it. And then the frustration starts immediately after that conversation. And it should be the opposite. It should be motivational.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because we live in a too much society. Everything is too much. We receive too many inputs. And it was very interesting. I was observing myself in the Christmas break, and I decided to go into a less mode, right? So I asked myself to do less of everything I'm used to do. And it was so interesting. I think this was the best break I've ever had.
Great.
So little. Okay, I like to do a lot of things. I'm very, very active. So it's very hard for me. I have to leave my comfort zone and in order to achieve the less. But I think a lot of people are hungry for the less type of lifestyle.
That's right. Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, for me, it's also like streamlining things. So if you know where you really want to go, then a lot of lots of things can just fall away on the wayside, by the wayside. And then you're left with the path, really, what you are trying to do, what you are trying to become, or what who you're trying to become with as well. And that's that. That you naturally things that are too much just kind of can fall away. But,
and managers, sometimes they also need coaching. I had this owner of a small company, and he approached me. He wanted to start a coaching process And I asked him a few questions, and within 10 minutes, he realized that he had a great habit earlier. He got on his bike every Tuesday morning, and that was a great routine he had. And actually, he realized within 10 minutes, I have to get back on my bike on a regular basis.
Right.
And his problem was solved. So
Right.
many times these small things help us, and every manager can help the team members by asking a few questions. How are you doing? How are you doing related to the goals? And then silence.
Yeah.
Listening,
Absolutely.
right? Listening skills are so important.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. That's where the blocked messages can at last get out. And at last you have the communication going again. And then, there's a chance to find that balance that you need. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's remain silent for 2 minutes, Richard.
Absolutely. Let's do that. Let's do that, Krisztina.
So yeah, true answers come and mature in the silence. A lot of people think a good conversation is about asking questions, answer a question, and it's not. The beauty lies in silence. And great answers can come up when we give time to our team members. They will appreciate that. How do you feel, Richard?
I'm feeling pretty good. I like the way we are finding a rhythm to our conversation.
Yeah,
and
very exciting.
bouncing ideas off each other. It's good.
Very good, very good. Okay, but that was a true question still in our conversation.
But
Okay.
it was a true answer.
Very good.
It's part of the
good.
conversation
Very
too.
good. And I'm glad you are saying the word true, because I think it's also very important to have an honest conversation, and a manager should also can share his or her true vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
Like challenges, talking about, like I have a lot of tasks too, and it's so important for me to define my priorities, right? So to have an honest conversation is a true gift nowadays.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, absolutely. It's and it's not always so easy. We have these roles, these kind of expectations that are not always correct about what we should say and what we're not supposed to say. Even talking and you can find this in many places, and what's interesting is that anyone watching kind of knows what's going on. For example, here we're talking together about this subject, and we, in a way, we find this natural rhythm, and then we think, but I feel that there's a little bit of stress. We should maybe now find an end point, or the big moral, or the final thing that we need to message. That we should, tell the world, Krisztina.
The word, the solution.
So
these are the 3 steps. So let's not do that, Richard.
Let's not do that. I think there's enough. What we can do is maybe we'll think about what we've said and some of the ideas, and maybe we can say something later, or take something out, take a few main points. But we don't need to, always have this big conclusion. Holding the space for the conversation is already a strong thing to do, and I think that's also something that can help with burnout.
Yeah, I love that. So we have this pressure on us, and the pressure is called performance.
Yeah,
actually, in our private lives as well.
Absolutely,
everybody's feeling the performance pressure. PP, let's call it the PP. Okay, so the performance pressure, and you talked about the final conclusion. So here, let's end this conversation without any final conclusion.
Absolutely, let's do that.
But still, I would like to remark that when I teach coaching, I always say, have a final conclusion, because help your team member to gain an insight. Okay, so what will the person do differently so that he or she can feel more motivated? So I am a big fan of final conclusions, and the final conclusion should be stated by who? By the manager or the team member. I'm a big fan of the team member should state that. The
team member, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right.
So we don't have a team member here, right?
We don't have. Do we have? Let me look around. Okay, the flowers, maybe.
The flowers
Richard,
on the wall, they know everything.
it's always great talking to you. Thank you
Great
so
talking
much.
to you, Christina. Yes, great to talk, and
Very
let's
exciting.
see what we can talk about next time as well.
Let's see. Let's surprise us and others.
That's
Have a
right.
great day, Richard.
That's the way to go. Way to go.
Take care.
Way to go.
Take care.